trader left 2 words on a desk. 3 days later, the 233-year-old bank he worked for no longer existed. Inside 2 weeks, it sold for £1. I'm sorry, that was the whole message. No total, no explanation, no forwarding address. One trader, one hidden account. Nobody left to check his work. I am Archie. I keep the files nobody wants reopened. This one is stamped file number 6, Barings Bank. There is a young man in here, a bank that gave him 2 jobs that should never share a desk, and 3 years in which nobody upstairs asked a single hard question. Open it with me. Barings began in 1762 in a London counting house, a merchant bank, lending to traders and to states. It started with Francis Baring and his brother John. Within 40 years, they were lending to countries. In 1803, the United States bought Louisiana from Napoleon and doubled its own size overnight. But America did not really pay Napoleon. It paid Barings and a Dutch house called Hope and Company, who handled the bonds and carried them across the Atlantic. The map of the United States was redrawn by a London bank with a ledger. And the wars paid too. While Britain fought Napoleon, Barings helped raise the money that kept the fight going. It would take 2 centuries and 1 desk to undo all of this. Then Napoleon fell in 1815, and Barings turned around and helped France borrow its way back, arranging money for the defeated side's reparations and rebuilding. The same bank financed the war, then financed the recovery. Kings borrowed from Barings, so did their enemies. Nothing on earth looked safer. That is usually where these files begin. By 1818, a line was going around Europe, long attributed to a French statesman. There are 6 great powers in Europe: England, France, Prussia, Austria, Russia, and Baring Brothers. The 6th great power had no army and no borders. It had books and it had trust. And trust evaporates a great deal faster than it accumulates. That trust outlasted Napoleon, 2 world wars, and an empire. Then, in April 1992, Barings sent a young back-office clerk named Nick Leeson to Singapore. He had no Oxford or Cambridge degree. He had come up from a working-class family in London's East End, through the back rooms where the paperwork lives. At Barings Futures Singapore, his job was the back office, checking trades, settling cash, making the numbers match. 2 months later, the bank handed him a second job. The trading manager London had recruited never arrived, so Leeson took the trading desk too. He now ran both. On an organization chart, that is a small staffing problem. In practice, it is this entire file. Every trading floor is supposed to have 2 departments watching each other. The front office makes the trades. The back office checks them, confirms the prices, settles the cash, and flags anything that does not add up. The whole system rests on one rule: the gambler is never the referee. In Singapore, that wall came down. Leeson placed the trades. Then Leeson checked them, and London read whatever arrived in the morning. By that summer, the 6th great power had exactly 1 person checking its Singapore desk. Unfortunately, it was the same person on both sides of the glass. On July 3, 1992, Leeson opened a new account. Its number was 8888. Some have noted that 8 is a lucky number in Chinese tradition. Others say a run of them reads the other way entirely. I have no idea which reading Leeson intended, and neither does anyone else. The market eventually settled the argument. An error account is an ordinary thing. It is a bin for small mistakes, a wrong price, a trade booked twice. You put the mess in, sort it out, and empty it. Account 88888 was never emptied. On the very first day, Leeson used it to hide about £40,000 of losses. Here is how that worked. London read reports built from Singapore's own books, and Leeson controlled those books. So each day he sent head office trades that looked healthy and swept the losses that did not fit into 888888. Barings' picture of Singapore was not one lie told once. It was one lie retyped every morning. By December 1994, the hidden hole had reached roughly £200 million. £40,000 was a family car. £200 million was a hospital. Traffic grew to match. About 2,000 trades a month in 1992, and about 96,000 by the autumn of 1994. The way out of the hole required the market to stand still, so he sold options on the Nikkei 225, Japan's main stock index, in a shape traders call a straddle. Industry estimates put it near 40,000 contracts, clustered around one price, 19,000 on the index. Strip the jargon out. He was not betting the market would rise. He was not betting it would fall. He was betting that nothing would happen at all. Movement in either direction cost him, and the further it moved, the faster it cost. By now, the question was not whether anyone would find it. It was when. By February 1995, by one analysis, his Nikkei position was around 8% of everything trading on the Singapore exchange. Those bets demanded cash. Exchanges make you post a deposit to keep a position open. Singapore kept asking London for money, and London kept sending it. For 3 years, a desk that reported profits kept asking for money. That contradiction sat in plain view. Leeson himself has since recalled that Barings had one compliance officer, one by his own account. If that is right, the last gate of a 233-year-old empire was one person, and the desk he answered to was the desk that wrote the figures. By mid-January 1995, a bank's survival rested on one condition, that nothing dramatic would happen in Japan. Then at 5:46 in the morning on January 17th, the ground moved. The Great Hanshin earthquake struck Kobe at magnitude 6.9. It killed around 6,400 people and drove hundreds of thousands from their homes. First and above everything else, it was a human catastrophe. It was also the one thing account 88888888 could not survive. Within days, the Nikkei cracked, more than 1,000 points, down through 18,000. The bet on stillness was over. What Leeson did next has a name in business schools: doubling. Instead of closing out, he bought more Nikkei futures as the index kept falling. One man was now trying to hold up a national stock index with somebody else's money. On February 23rd, he left. He and his wife flew out of Singapore, and on the desk lay those two words. The next day, a fax reached Barings, a short apology and his resignation. No spreadsheet, no total. The bank had to go and find its own number. Once every position was closed out, it was £927 million, against a total capital of 350. The bank had lost more than twice everything it owned. On February 26, 1995, Barings declared itself insolvent. On March 2nd, German police arrested Leeson at Frankfurt Airport. The next day, the Dutch group ING agreed to buy Barings for £1 and to shoulder more than $1 billion of its debts. 233 years priced at a single coin. The coin was the cheap part. Leeson fought extradition for 9 months and lost. Singapore took him back in November 1995. He pleaded guilty to deceiving the bank's auditors and to cheating the Singapore exchange, and a court sentenced him to 6.5 years. Months earlier, in July 1995, the Bank of England's Board of Banking Supervision had published its findings in full. No separation between front office and back office, and managers who, individually and collectively, had not discovered the true position earlier. A serious failure of controls. The name outlived the bank. Today's Barings is an asset manager owned by an American insurer, a separate company from the one that failed in 1995. Same word on the door, different company behind it. The last turn came in prison. In 1998, doctors diagnosed Leeson with colon cancer, and surgeons removed a tumor reportedly close to the size of a softball. In July 1999, he was released early on medical grounds, after 4 years and 4 months. His next job was not in finance. In 2005, he turned up in Irish football at Galway United, commercial manager, then general manager, then chief executive, until he stepped down in 2011. The man who broke the sixth great power spent 6 years running the business of a small city football club and reportedly settled in Ireland and raised a family there. Bloomberg reported in 2023 and again in 2025 that Leeson had joined a firm investigating financial wrongdoing. No one else has confirmed it. One thing he said in 2025 needs no caution. Asked about the loosening of financial rules, Leeson told Bloomberg he worried about how far deregulation might go and whether it opens the door for things to go wrong again. Then a detail about his old employer. We had one compliance officer at Barings. Here is the lesson from file number 6. He left 2 words. He left a bill of £927 million, over £460 million a word. But the words were never the problem. The problem was 3 years in which one man wrote the figures and the same man checked them, while everybody upstairs read the summary. Boring controls are the cheapest thing a company ever buys. Right up to the morning, they are the only thing between you and 233 years of nothing. Close the file. Somewhere tonight, someone is marking their own homework. I'll keep the light on.